Hey, so today I'm going to be installing a Trion Mr. Mini. This is a whole house humidifier, and after researching we found that we kind of like this one because the footprint's a lot smaller and the maintenance is less than the larger ones by Honeywell or Able Air. Not to say that they're bad units, but for our case we wanted to try using this one. So what's nice about it is it only requires a 3-inch opening. I'm going to install it onto the supply of our hot air system instead of the return, just because I don't want mist going into the air filter. And so this is the unit itself. As you can see, it's pretty small compared to the size of my hand. It's about 3 inches. And on the front you have the supply line where the 1/4-inch water supply goes in. You have your electrical connections. This will tell you the direction of the airflow, so keep that in mind as you sort of install this thing, which way you want it flowing. They always suggest that you have it as close to the main stack as you can. I'm not really able to, and I'm not really comfortable, because if for any reason this leaks, I don't want it leaking onto the main control panel of the furnace. So I'm going to put it a little farther away and I'll show you that. And on the back, this is the valve itself. And the directions say that every season or so you have to take this apart and look at it and verify that this isn't clogged. It's a part that you can get from any plumbing supply house, evidently, so I haven't tried yet, but I'll give you an update on that later. So this is the area we're going to be installing it in. I have a carrier furnace, but it'll work with any brand. You can see where the exhaust goes, and then this is the main stack going up into the house. Now I have a branch going to one side of the house, and then back here I have, sorry if you can see that, another branch that goes up into the rest of the house. I don't want to install it here, although this is the best, most logical place to put it because it'll get it into the main airflow. I don't want to put it there because if it does spray or leak, I don't want it to be touching the electrical, and I don't want it to be dripping on the main control panel of the furnace. What I decided to do was to put it here on this branch as close to the main stack as I can, but still having it at a comfortable distance away from any of the electrical work. And the unit comes with this template. I just taped it up temporarily. And what you have to do is you need to center punch these 4 holes and then center punch the 4 corners. And sorry about the shaky camera. And when you're done with that, you have to cut this out with a pair of tin snips. I'll show you that next. What you want to do to get started is drill a hole in the center. And once you have a hole big enough, you can fit your tin snips in there and begin sort of hacking away at it. It's not the most fun job in the world. It's kind of over your head and it makes your arms tired, but it's not too bad. And what you want to do is follow the outline of the center square across here and up until you have your 3-inch hole. So once you have your hole drilled out, take the template off and you'll be left with something like this. It's not very pretty. So what you want to do is you want to take a rasp. I have one that's connected to a drill, and I find that that's just a little bit easier than using a hand tool. But if all you have is a hand tool, then it's fine. It's just going to take a little longer. So as you can see, the hole is not perfect. I'm left-handed and I have a left-handed snip, but there's just some framing and stuff in the way that, prevented me from making a nice clean cut along here, so I'll have to clean it up and I'll show you how that looks when it's done. So once you have your hole cut, the next thing you want to do is separate the housing body from the plate cover, and the plate cover is actually what has all the components built into it. You have to unscrew the screw that goes right here and sort of pry it apart. There's a rubber gasket, so it's a little difficult to pry this nozzle out of it, but this is what's inside. You have a solenoid that's powered by the 2 yellow wires. You have the sensor on the bottom. You have the nozzle, right? So you want to set this aside for now, but while you have it open, knock out that little hole right there and feed the 2 wires through. There should be a little knockout, and you can use any standard electrical knockout clasp to sit in there. So now with the back plate removed, what you want to do is you want to take this, sorry I'm operating with one hand here, you want to take the gasket that's been supplied with the unit, and with the adhesive side facing the ductwork, you want to mount it on here. So from here, just peel off the adhesive. It should come off pretty easily. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed. the unit. Make sure you remember which way the air is flowing. Mine's going this way. We have our unit, and if you can see carefully, I made sure that the air is flowing that direction. Make sure the adhesive gasket is pushed tightly. You can remove this now and just run your finger along it, just to make sure you get a good seal. Watch your fingers, don't get any burrs. Alright, there you go. Get yourself a hole. Let's see if we can pop that back in. And then what you want to do is, I'm using an impact driver, just a little bit easier. Right. Or 5/16 bit. Should hopefully line up with the holes. I'm going to put the phone down. Alright, so now that the unit is nice and tight in there, you should be able to slip the cover plate back on, and we'll begin wiring up the electrical and the plumbing. So to connect the unit to the water line, find the closest cold water line, and what you want to do is you want to connect it using a 1/4 inch copper line, and you'll probably want to use a saddle valve to turn the water connection on and off. Some people don't like using saddle valves because, like, this is a saddle valve, because it punctures a hole in the line. I find that they're not a huge problem because, number one, that hole can be patched pretty easily. But anyway, if you want to, you can replace it with a full service valve. It's just a little bit more work. I'm not going to show you that in this demonstration though. So as part of the installation, I'm going to use a water filter prior to the unit itself, just because I don't want any calcification or like lime deposits or anything showing up on the valve of the humidifier, because it's going to mess up the spray. So this one in particular came with these types of fittings, which are perfect because it's going to marry right up to the 1/4 inch copper. You want to install them on both sides, and I just used Teflon tape. Make sure you always wrap the tape in the direction of the thread, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so what I did was I installed a a saddle valve that has compression fittings. And what you want to do is you want to install this thing so that the rubber gasket right about there is compressed. That's how you know your seal has been made. And what you do is you turn this handle clockwise until you start feeling a little bit of pressure. That's when the needle is about to puncture the copper. And then what you want to do is you want to turn it all the way, completely clockwise, until it stops. And that's how you know that a saddle valve is in its closed position. So you just sort of keep going until you can't turn it anymore. That's an old saddle valve behind it. That was here when we bought the house. Almost there. Okay, so now we're through. I can feel it. And it's much easier to turn now. And now we're closed. I can't turn it anymore. So now that's in the closed position. Water can pass it, but it won't come into the valve. So I just bought a standard 15-foot coil of copper. We don't need this much for what we're doing. And the standard kits come with these connections. These are compression connections. And basically what you do is you take the nut that has a compression fitting inside and you slide it on to the end. It'll also come with a little brass stem that will fit inside that hole, and all that does is really stiffen up the copper so that when you do tighten it, it doesn't collapse it in the wrong shape. So with any compression fittings, what you want to do is you want to make sure it's hand tight, and then after that you want to take your vice grips, adjustable wrench, and turn it. Might be tight here, it's a little tough. You want to turn it probably a 1/4 turn. The key with these is you do not want to over tighten it. So that's one little turn. Let's do just one. that's it. That's all you gotta do. So I just took a tubing cutter to cut the end. I had way too much excess, so just a standard copper tubing cutter. So you want to treat this just like any other piece of copper, and it's always best to use the right tool for it, because as you can see, it makes a nice cut without any burrs on the end. So for them, what we're going to do is we're going to sort of unwind this. We're going to run it back up under here and over to the unit. And remember, in between, we're going to install the filter. All right, so I have the filter installed. We connected to the saddle valve, and that's just some bracing I had up temporarily to hold it. I'm going to take that down. And then we have the other end going into the humidifier. Always remember to keep those directions in mind, the flow direction. And then make sure what you want to do is after the saddle valve's in, turn it on, make sure there's no leaks. I have a little bit of a leak going on right there, but that's normal. I'll tighten that up in a little bit. Probably just didn't tighten it all the way. And then this wire here is what we're going to use. Sorry, it's a little messy. To connect the electricity to it. So this is coming from the thermostat in our kitchen. I happen to have the ecobee 3 digital thermostat, which we really like because it has a built-in humidistat. You don't have to use the humidistat that's supplied with this device. And upstairs in the humidistat, I have the red end of this, the other end of this red, going into the port called ACC+. So different ones are going to be labeled slightly differently. I'll put a link in the bottom of this video that links to a really helpful article that talks about all kinds of different configurations. Mine's pretty simple, so I'm just going to follow the standard wiring, and then I'll show you what that looks like when it's hooked up. So the first thing I did was I wired the red from the thermostat to the bright yellow, which is the solid wire, not the stranded wire, of the humidifier. The solid wire comes out of the temperature gauge. The stranded wire comes out of the solenoid. That stranded wire is what we're going to connect next, but I wanted to show you how the red from my thermostat is connected to the bright yellow here. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that the stranded yellow wire from above gets connected right down here to this common. You can have probably 4 wires safely put in there before it's too many for it to handle. It's not a voltage thing, it's more of a space issue. So I have the covers back on. I ran the white over to the common, and at the top here I have the white connected to the stranded yellow and the red connected to the solid yellow. Now we're going to go back upstairs, plug the thermostat back in, and see if it works. Hey guys, so sorry about that. I hooked it up wrong. I went upstairs, tried to turn it on, and it just wasn't coming on. It's because I had the 2 wires switched. So the bright yellow wire coming out needs to be connected to the common terminal in your thermostat, and the dull yellow wire, the stranded one coming from the solenoid, needs to be wired to your thermostat. And again, I have an ecobee 3 digital thermostat, and it's pretty handy because it tells you when something's not wired correctly, or it tells you when it senses that a wire is hooked in. So that is it in terms of the installation. Hope you guys enjoyed this and it was helpful. Thanks.